The roar of the crowd, the adrenaline of the game, it all fades in an instant when catastrophe strikes. For professional athletes, every moment on the field, court, or track carries the risk of unimaginable injuries that can end careers in the blink of an eye. Bone-shattering impacts, life-threatening blows, and irreversible damage have left some of the world's greatest competitors broken, their dreams stolen in mere seconds. This is the true tragedy of those professional athletes who ended their careers with the worst injuries in sports. Eric LeGrand. Football is a sport of inches, where every second and every movement can mean glory or disaster. On October 16, 2010, during a Rutgers Army game, Eric LeGrand was racing downfield to stop a kickoff return. The game was tight, tensions high, and every player was going full throttle. LeGrand zeroed in on the ball carrier, his instincts kicking in. But in the instant their bodies collided, the unimaginable happened. LeGrand lowered his head for the tackle, a routine move he'd practiced countless times. This time, the angle was off. His helmet struck the opponent's shoulder with a force so sharp and precise that it snapped his neck backward. He crumpled to the ground, his body completely still. For a split second, the crowd didn't know what to make of it. Then the realization set in. Something was horribly wrong. Trainers rushed to his side, shouting his name. Eric lay motionless, unable to move anything below his neck. He later recalled feeling like his body had vanished. As the medical team worked urgently, his teammates stood frozen in shock, some praying, others crying. The silence in the stadium was deafening, broken only by the murmurs of concerned fans. LeGrand had fractured his C3 and C4 vertebrae, two critical points in the spinal cord that control most movement and sensation below the neck. The injury was catastrophic. The danger disrupted the body's signals, leaving him paralyzed from the neck down. He was rushed to the hospital, where doctors performed emergency surgery to stabilize his spine and save his life. Doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize his spinal cord and prevent further complications, but the severity of the injury was undeniable. For his family, teammates, and coaches, the heartbreak was immense. They rallied around him, but everyone knew his career and life as an athlete was over. While his dream of playing in the NFL was gone, he found new ways to inspire others. He wrote a memoir, started a foundation to help others with spinal cord injuries, and even opened his own coffee shop, all while continuing his journey toward walking again. Eric LeGrand's life changed forever in a split second, yet his story is one of survival and hope. But Roy Chapman wasn't as fortunate. His career and his life came to a tragic end on an August afternoon in 1920 during a routine at-bat that turned deadly. Ray Chapman. Chapman was a star shortstop for the Cleveland Indians, a skilled player with a .300 batting average and a reputation as one of the best bunters in baseball. On August 16, 1920, the Indians faced the New York Yankees at the Polo Grounds. Chapman stepped to the plate, focused and ready. Carl Mays, the Yankees pitcher, delivered the ball with his signature submarine-style throw, low and fast. It was late in the afternoon, and the ball, scuffed and darkened by dirt and spit, was nearly invisible against the fading light. Chapman never saw it coming. The pitch struck him directly in the temple with a sickening crack that echoed across the stadium. The sound was so loud that Mays thought the ball had hit Chapman's bat. He instinctively fielded it and threw to first base. But when Chapman collapsed at the plate, the gravity of the situation became clear. Blood poured from his left ear as teammates and trainers rushed to his side. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Chapman tried to stand, muttering incoherently about a ring for his wife, Katie, before collapsing again. Doctors at St. Lawrence Hospital diagnosed Chapman with a depressed skull fracture. They performed emergency surgery to relieve the swelling in his brain, but the damage was too severe. Chapman died in the early hours of August 17, 1920, with his pregnant wife arriving too late to say goodbye. His death shocked the baseball world. Chapman remains the only major league player to die from an on-field injury. The tragedy led to significant changes in the game, including the banning of spitballs and rules requiring fresh, clean balls in play. Chapman's teammates wore black armbands for the rest of the season and went on to win the 1920 World Series, dedicating the victory to their fallen friend. It was a bittersweet tribute to a life cut far too short. Ray Chapman's story ended in tragedy, showing how the danger of sport can strike in the blink of an eye. Rudy Tomjanovich, however, survived his brush with death, but just barely. His career and his life were forever altered by one split-second act of violence on the basketball court. Rudy Tomjanovich. It was December 9, 1977, during a game between the Houston Rockets and the Los Angeles Lakers. The second half had just begun when a scuffle broke out near center court. As punches flew between the Lakers' Kermit Washington and the Rockets' Kevin Cunnert, Tomjanovich sprinted from the free throw line, aiming to break up the fight. But Washington didn't see a teammate rushing in. He only saw movement in his peripheral vision and reacted. Washington swung a fist with full force. The punch landed squarely on Tomjanovich's face, the impact so powerful that it fractured his skull, broke his nose and jaw, and caused spinal fluid to leak. The sound of the blow reverberated through the arena, silencing the crowd. Tomjanovich collapsed instantly, hitting the hardwood floor with a sickening thud. Blood pooled beneath him as players and officials froze in shock. He was rushed to the hospital, where doctors discovered the severity of his injuries. The force of the punch had left his face shattered, requiring extensive reconstructive surgery. Tomjanovich later learned he had been just inches from death. The blow had nearly caused fatal brain damage. Recovery was long and painful. Tomjanovich spent months away from the game he loved, enduring headaches and lingering fear. While he eventually returned to the court and even earned another All-Star selection, his playing style changed. Even today, the punch is remembered as one of the most infamous moments in NBA history. Anderson Silva. On December 28, 2013, Anderson Silva, one of the UFC's greatest fighters, stepped into the octagon for a highly anticipated rematch against Chris Weidman. Silva, known for his devastating striking ability, aimed to reclaim his middleweight title, but the fight ended in a horrifying way no one could have predicted. In the second round, Silva launched a powerful left leg kick, a move he had executed countless times in his career. Weidman, prepared for Silva's strategy, countered by blocking the kick with his knee. The impact was immediate and catastrophic. Silva's tibia and fibula snapped like twigs, his leg bending unnaturally as the arena gasped in unison. The force of the break was so severe that his leg appeared to wrap around Weidman's, a haunting image burned into the memory of every viewer. Medical staff rushed into the ring as Silva screamed in pain, clutching his leg. The injury was so severe that he couldn't stand, and the fight was instantly called off. In the days following the event, Silva underwent surgery to have a titanium rod inserted into his leg. Although the break wasn't a compound fracture, meaning the bone didn't pierce the skin, the recovery was still grueling. Many questioned if Silva would ever return to professional fighting. Against all odds, Silva made his comeback less than 2 years later, but something had changed. The man who once seemed untouchable in the octagon was now visibly more cautious, haunted by the mental and physical scars of that night. But as devastating as Silva's injury was, it pales in comparison to the final seconds of Dale Earnhardt's life. A moment that would not only claim the life of NASCAR's biggest icon, but also revolutionize the sport's approach to safety. Dale Earnhardt. It was February 18, 2001, and the Daytona 500 was winding down. Earnhardt, known as the Intimidator, was doing what he did best, blocking competitors to secure a win for his team. His son, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and teammate Michael Waltrip were leading the pack, with Dale Sr. fiercely protecting their position. On the final lap, everything changed. Earnhardt's car made slight contact with Sterling Marlin's before colliding with Ken Schrader's. The impact sent his number 3 car head-on into the retaining wall at nearly 160 miles per hour. The crash appeared minor compared to NASCAR's typically dramatic wrecks, but the damage was devastating. Earnhardt's car came to rest in the infield as Schrader frantically signaled for help, his face telling a story of grim realization. Paramedics rushed Earnhardt to Halifax Medical Center, but it was too late. He had suffered a fatal basilar skull fracture, an injury that kills instantly. The racing world lost one of its brightest stars that day. Fans, teammates, and even competitors mourned the man who had defined NASCAR for decades. Earnhardt's death shook the sport to its core. NASCAR implemented sweeping safety changes, including mandatory head and neck restraints and improved car designs. While the tragedy was immeasurable, his loss ultimately made the sport safer for generations to come. This was worst career-ending injuries in sports.